You're about to listen to our conversation with Leo Harrison, the founder of Chapter 2, one of the fastest growing companies in the UK. We spoke about Steven Bartlett investing in the business, about the principles behind Chapter 2's growth, and how a multimillionaire stays relentlessly focused on his goals. In this, Leo even took out his phone to show me his goals for this year. Leo, what does Chapter 2 do, and how has it become one of the UK's fastest growing companies?
So Chapter 2 is effectively a talent business. What we do is we provide people process technology to build talent ecosystems for global brands. What I believe is that if you're going to recruit for a company, you need to deeply understand that business, because you're taking that as a product to market to sell it to candidates that are going to come work for you. So there's only one way of really doing that, and that is to completely immerse yourself in the brand. So on the first pillar, we effectively build in-house. We put our people in-house with our clients. I've done this for 20 years, building in-house teams. And I think building teams in close proximity to your clients who really immerse themselves into your world breeds better output effectively, because they're not thinking about other clients. They're thinking about one client and one client only. So the first thing we do is we put our people inside our clients' office. So they think about one client. So when they're thinking about it in the shower, they think about that one client. When they're out for a run, they think about that one client. They're not thinking about multiple clients. Then they get truly immersed. The second thing that we do is we believe that recruitment is a marketing strategy, really. We believe that recruitment is a sales and marketing platform. So we create content on behalf of our clients to attract the best talent to their businesses, because frankly speaking, the best talent, the ones that you really want, that are helping your competitors beat you, aren't looking, because the competitors are looking after them too much. So you've got to create content that is always in front of them, that's always engaging, that gets them on that bad day when they might think about applying for that job. And the third area is we're technology enabled. So we have built our own suite of technology products to help broaden and deepen the search for our clients. So our teams can go into technology stack. They can generate insights from our partners such as Horsefly. They can use all the products within LinkedIn, and they can use our own proprietary technology to deepen the search and dip into communities of talent for vacancies that they might have for clients. That's what we do.
Brilliant. And how has that helped you become one of the fastest growing companies then?
I think one of the main reasons why we've grown so quickly, and do you know what, it's growing quickly, but it's also the main thing to recognize it's bucking the trend. So since 2020, since I founded the company, the economy's known nothing else but craziness, right? And if you look at Chapter 2's growth rates, we've been steady on our growth trajectory since day one. And that's probably the biggest thing that I'm most proud of, because I've seen a lot of other companies tank. And I think the reason why we have bucked the trend is because, one, I come into this industry with a very different lens. I don't do talent acquisition. I don't do recruitment. I provide business services to brands. That's what I've done all my career. So I'm very client-centric. I'm very client-led. I'm very solution-led. And I don't have a muscle memory on how recruitment should be done, because I've never done it before. So I've come up with new ways of doing it to break the mold effectively. And I think that model that I just articulated is the main reason why we've been sticky with our existing clients. So we haven't lost clients, but we've also grown and acquired new ones. We're going to continue to grow the business. I have got a restlessness and a relentless ambition to grow this company to no less than sort of 6 locations around the world, 500 people, offering massive value for our clients. And in order to do so, I recognize that I've got to surround myself with exceptional individuals that are going to get us to that point, because frankly, I know that I'm not going to do it alone. I have to have my SLT around me, and I have to bring in certain people to do that. So we've got a really exciting announcement coming out that Steven Bartlett is becoming an investor and partner into Chapter 2.
Wow.
He's joining the executive board to focus on our marketing and product offering. Steven's involvement in the business will be to work with our product team to make sure our products are tech enabled but client centric, And there's no better person to work on our marketing and brand. Talking
Absolutely.
about surround yourself with better people. He's much better than me at this by like a country mile. So Stephen's going to be joining the team from mid-July. He again is going to help to extend the awareness of Chapter 2 and bring on board new concepts, new ideas with his group of companies around him to add value and build Chapter 2 out. So yeah, exciting news. I guess you got the exclusive.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
And we are really excited to welcome Steven Bartlett. I've known Steven for six years. So as I mentioned earlier, I went on Social Change podcast, Social Minds, back in February. I met Steven for a very brief corridor conversation, which ended up being a 2-hour chat in a lounge. Got on really well. Always stayed in touch with him. Nearly did business twice over. Didn't quite make it happen. And 6 years on, we've come together, and we're going to be building probably one of the world's most disruptive talent businesses out there. And I'm really excited about it.
Amazing. Yeah. You say sticky because you get embedded in their company. It's probably harder for them to pull out of it compared to a more traditional agency, because obviously we're an SEO agency. So sometimes in hard times, people might go, okay, that budget line is going to have to be cut completely straight up. And a traditional agency might find the churn rates higher. Yeah. So being embedded, does that help kind of retain, do you reckon?
I think it helps. Being embedded doesn't help any of the contractual obligations. So if they want to cut you, they'll cut you. But if budget pressures are required, what I would say, being embedded and being dedicated to one client means that you build more than a transactional supplier relationship. You become a true partner. You almost become one, and they see you as their team, an extension of their team. So I'll give you an example. You might have a briefing meeting, and you come back and you pitch your ideas. The meeting doesn't go so well, right? And you go back to your office, they go back to their office, and the relationship starts to fester a little bit, okay? You have your next meeting, it improves a little bit, but the relationship's still slightly fractured. If you are embedded, you have that meeting, you go into a meeting room that's down the corridor, you have that meeting, it doesn't go so well, you come out the corridor and go, can I buy you a coffee? Can we grab a coffee and can we sort that out? And you have that, yeah, of course we can. And relationships don't fracture and relationships don't fester. And I think one of the key, I think, principles that I've always gone by personally is client centricity and client relationships are one of the number one priorities that you will need to create longevity and sticky relationships with clients, because they'll want to work with you. They'll want to see you succeed. So that's what I mean when I say sticky. Yes, you need to put hooks and barbs and different solutions in place to mean that clients really, really rely on you. But also, it's a really big relationship thing. And because you're embedded, you're seen as one, you're seen as an extension of their team. They really like you. And it just helps the relationship not fester if any issues come up.
Perfect. We'll come on to principles that have helped guide your growth in a bit. But just turning back the clock to your time at Oliver, obviously, you went from a team of 4 employees and you helped them grow to a team of thousands. Like, what made you actually want to start again and do it yourself?
Yeah, good question. I was at the, I'd say, leading and bleeding edge of Oliver's growth for 15 years. It was a phenomenal journey. I learned an incredible amount over that period of time. And I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit to see if I could build a business myself. My dad, had his own business. And I was always kind of like the right-hand man to a guy called Simon Martin, who's the founder of Oliver. And I wanted to see if I could do it myself. I've been a number 2 guy for 15 years. And while it was an amazing job, no one quite prepares you for the sort of exposure of doing it yourself on your own. And I want to see if I could do it. I want to challenge myself. And also I felt young enough and I felt energetic enough. Also, if I knew what was going to happen, like since launching the company from 2020 to now, and the macroeconomic conditions that would happen, I'm glad I didn't get told by like future me, because I probably wouldn't have done it. Yeah. But I'm really pleased that I've done it. And the reason why I did it was because I wanted to see if I could do it myself.
Perfect. You mentioned Simon Martin, the CEO at Oliver. Like, what were your biggest lessons from working with him?
It was the equivalent of doing probably the best masters of business you could ever imagine. It was living it. I effectively, and I've never actually said this before, but I think that I was living and experiencing a master's degree at another level, being in close proximity to Simon, learning from him every day. The guy never let me relax in a positive way. He never let me rest on my laurels, is what I really mean. So he was consistently push me because I think he knew what I was capable of. Even today, he contacts me about chapter 2 and pushes me with chapter 2, like what you're doing with this, what you're doing with that. So he's always on it, and we've become great friends. So I think I could give you some prescribed lessons. Like, for example, one of the key ones that I talk about a lot is Simon taught me to never lose a client through lack of innovation. Okay, consistently move your product in the line of sight of where the client is going. Classic example from a marketing perspective. I'm old enough to know that before email, and email is even now dated. Before email, snail mail was the marketing communications. All the crap you get through your door. And we had a client that was sending out hundreds of thousands of letters every single week. We were designing and printing and sending those letters out. And we could see that they were moving towards a cost reduction strategy, and post was very expensive. So they were moving towards email. So very quickly, we created a product, partnered with a platform, and offered them an email marketing product. Now, if we hadn't have done that, we would have lost that client. That client would have gone. It would have gone to another email marketing company, and that client would have gone. We kept that client because we moved the product into the site of where the client was moving towards. So never lose a client through lack of innovation. That was a good one. I'll never forget he'd have this really good way of just phoning me on a random Thursday and saying, what was the last mistake you made? He said, what was the last mistake you made? I'll be like, I don't know. I'll be like, cockily, I'll probably say I don't make mistakes. And he'd be like, shut up. What was the last mistake you made? And I'll tell him, and he'd say, good, I'm really pleased you're making mistakes because you're learning. Like, I want you to push. Mistakes are good. It means you're learning. There's so many of them.
What about, I suppose it sits in well with this, a culture of restlessness. What does that mean?
A culture of restlessness generally means that we are constantly pushing and proactively increasing the cadence of our business, whether it's we're restless for our clients. So Oliver was restless for its clients to develop close relationships, to understand where the product was going, increase what our product offering was. Exactly the same for chapter 2. Restless for our culture, restless for our performance and our results. We wanted a senior leadership team that mirrored the sort of restlessness nature of Simon Martin and what he instilled in me, which was to consistently be, and we call this positive paranoia, to be paranoid about things that could happen. So we put in mitigating actions to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. So restlessness in a positive sense just means that you are constantly looking, constantly trying to add value, constantly asking questions. Like, people absolutely undervalue and underestimate the importance and the benefit from just building relationships and asking questions to your customers, because you can then create solutions from the problems they might speak about.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a concept that me and Harry, my co-founder, we constantly peddle this out to clients. People buy from people in its simplest form. So it's really interesting as well, like the principles you've spoken about, we've jumped ahead, but they all seem interconnected in a sense. Like, is that on purpose, or is it just the lessons and you've kind of worked out that they all kind of merge together and it points you in the right direction?
They weren't interconnected for me because I was learning them and I've learned them over the period of my career, but I guess they are interconnected. They all pivot around 3 pillars in which that we operate, I guess, which I talk about a lot, which is subject of market orientation. Where is your market orientating towards? Where are your clients moving their demand towards? That's what market orientation is about. Where is the market going? And within market orientation, and Simon jumped this into us, and I've jumped this into chapter 2, are 3 pillars. Consistently delivering sustainable customer benefits, being operationally capable to deliver for your clients, and to be competitively different to the people you're coming up against. So competitive differentiation. Those 3 pillars, if you take those 3 ingredients and apply that to what you're doing your day to day. So if you take this into your current business, are we doing something that's different to our competitors? Not sure. Okay. Is it adding value to our customers? Yeah, our customers like it. Okay, are we operationally capable to do it? Yes, we are. Okay, that's great. That means you've got a business and a product that's going well, but your time is ticking because someone's going to come after your work because you're not competitively different. Same with sustainable customer benefits, right? So if you've got you can have a project that's different that no other competitor's got, and you can deliver it. But if your customers don't want it, you don't have a business. The one that I think you can push, the one pillar that you can push, is operational capability, because if you've got something that you convince your clients they want or deliver sustainable customer benefits, and it's different to the competition, and you think you can deliver it, you can win and grow. And that's the one I think that we push the most at Oliver. And when you're a fast growth business, you have to push that one. We had a saying, and I don't know if I should even say this, but I'll say it anyway. It's like the mantra that we had growing a business was, yes, what's the question? Yes, we'll do it. What's the question? And as long as it was in the realm of market orientation and it was in the realm of our product offering, we did it. Now that was really pushing our operational capability. So for example, we would, and I could say this because it's been so long now, it's been 20 years, but I remember our first client that we ever won, right? And there was it was a leisure gyms company, and they had gym facilities all around the UK, and we were pitching for the contract to win and deliver all of their marketing materials internationally. And the sustainable customer benefit was, we think we could do something cheaper, faster, better with less people using a technology platform. Great. Okay, that's a sustainable customer benefit. The competitive differentiation was nobody else had this technology platform and could do it better than us. Great. That's 2 pillars covered. Operationally capable. Well, that was literally me, Simon, and Ash in the business. There was 3-4 of us in the business, so we weren't very operationally capable of doing it. And I've never used a Mac or designed a business card, let alone POS for gym leisure centers. So we won this piece of business, but we were highly incapable of doing it. Now, what happened was, Simon Martin got dragged up in front of the board of directors, and we had to fix it, and it went horrendously badly. But I'll tell you now, 20 years later, Oliver still has that client. That's because Oliver has consistently market orientated itself in the line of that client. 20 years.
Wow, that's. I suppose this comes on to one of the principles as well. It's yes, what's the question? But it's sell faster than your team can build. Now, old me working in the agency on the front lines, I would have been like, "You're mad! Don't!" Or it sounds like a recipe for trouble. Does it mean that in terms of capacity planning, or is it more like, yes, we'll do it and we'll find a way of doing it?
I think you've got to sell faster than your team can build, because not everything always goes to plan. You don't win everything you pitch for and sell for. I think that I'm trying to think the best way of answering this one. I think as long as you make sure the customer receives value, and you don't I'll tell you what, you can't let the customer down. Yeah. You can sell something beyond your capabilities, but you've still got to deliver what you've sold. Yes, it might be a little bit late because you slightly oversold yourself because you're the underdog. Yes, it might be slower. Yes, it might not be fully operational, but you got there. You got across the line. So selling faster than your team can build is more of a, you'd never really hear Microsoft or Apple talk like that, but a street fighting company that's trying to build its way up and win market share, you should go by that mantra, because as long as you can deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and you can the line is in sight, and it's not on the horizon, I I think that's okay. And again, it's that if you've got the relationships with the client, you'll get through that bumpy implementation in first 3 months, and then post 3 months you'll be fine.
Well, as well, on the kind of principles, I love this quote of yours. Like, discipline is the difference between what you want now and what you want most.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, discipline is the difference between what you want now and what you want most. I use that term as often as I personally can, and not just for business, but also personal. So, I want to run a marathon, right? In order to do that, I've got to get my diet in line. I've got to train hard. I've got to go out and put the hours in. So what do I want most? What I want most is to do a sub-4 marathon in October. What do I want now? Oh, I'd like to go and sit in the sun on the beach because the sun's out, right? But actually, I know I've got to go and put the hours in. So I've got to go and put the hours in to get what I want most. And from a business perspective, when I was, how old was I? I was in my early 30s, and I was living in London, in the centre of London, and I had every reason, every justification to be sort of, going out in London to all the usual spots and enjoying myself. Good salary, good job, living in London, enjoy it, live the life. What I wanted most was a career, and what I wanted most was to maintain the pace of Oliver's growth. It wasn't really a fear, but it may be a fear. My biggest concern was not maintaining the pace of Oliver and being dropped down off the SLT. And Simon, while he was massively loyal, if you didn't maintain the pace, you'd have a job with him for life, but you wouldn't sit at the top table. It's a football team, right? I think the best football teams in the world, you get benched. So I had this massive sort of concern, I guess, to maintain the pace of Oliver and do my masters. So I wanted to do a masters. Simon actually recommended to do my masters, and part of my sort of 10-year anniversary, he funded it. And what I wanted most, go out, enjoy London, be a 30-year-old single guy. So did I say what I want most? Yeah. No, what I wanted most was the career Oliver. But what I wanted was to go out and have a night out. But I didn't. So I had to spend 15 hours a week studying. So that was 2 hours every night after work and half a day at the weekend. Yeah. So anyway, to get to my point, from a work context, and you might want to edit this bit out, but from a work context, what I wanted most was to maintain the pace at Oliver and grow with the business and not be benched. In order to do that, I had to do a master's, and I knew I had to go and really skill up because I was young and all I knew was Oliver. So I went and did my master's. Instead of going out in London and doing what young London guys and girls do, I spent 2 hours every evening hitting the books. I literally falling asleep with books on my chest. Half a day every weekend, never went out, and studied for 2 years, got my master's, and then realized that there's a new level of work I could operate to, a more global level, and I had a better network from the cohort, and that was a sacrifice, but it's 2 years gone like that, So like the difference between what you want now, what you most is really, really critical, because you might want that iced bun now, but what you want most is to have good physique for the summer, or you might want to have a great career. So don't go out in London and go drinking. Study, hit the books, research your competitors. And I learned this from my wife, who I sort of again, massive inspiration to me. When I first met her, she said to me, "What are you doing this weekend?" And this was actually after my master's, and I probably said something along the lines of, going for dinner, going for lunches, whatever. And she goes, "No, the weekends are for getting ahead. If you want to progress your career, the weekends are for researching your competitors, researching your market, and learning about the role that you want to do. Otherwise, you may as well just be another payroll person, just cruising along, which is nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But if you want a career and you want to create wealth and you want to build something, you've got to do something different to what the norm people do. You've got to buck the trend."
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Oliver, you had that kind of motivation to stay at the top table. I love that football analogy. I'm all for that. Like, you don't want to be benched. You don't want someone else taking your place. Like, How did you take that mindset into chapter 2? And like, because it's your own business, obviously, different motivations, obviously you're doing it for yourself. Did you find that easy, or did the mindset kind of wander a little bit because it was yours? You could almost take your foot off the pedal a little bit, or feel like that.
I think the hardest thing about having your own business and being a solo CEO and entrepreneur, like not having a co-founder or partner, is that self-motivation. It's really, really difficult. And also, especially working from a home environment as well, because you don't see your colleagues and comrades as much. You see them virtually.
Yeah.
So self-discipline and self-motivation have been probably some of my hardest challenges over the last 2 years, especially as they've been so tough. Like the last 2 years have been really hard. I mean, I can sit here and look, anyone can look at our numbers and go, yeah. Don't get me wrong, we're not a unicorn, right? But we've grown 248% since day one. You know, we've never lost money. I put 30 grand into the company when I first started it. You know, yes, I didn't pay myself a salary for the first 2 years, but you know, we've got this business off the ground. I think some of the hardest moments are more because when we were at Oliver, like I went into the office every day and I was around my colleagues, my team, but I'm not around my team every day. So I find it quite hard to get self-motivated sometimes. Yeah. So I might just Teams call people to chat because I get lonely.
Yeah. I suppose that leads nicely, like, what was day one like? You know, you've taken the leap, you've left a good job, and you're starting out on your own. Were there any doubts day one? And how did you intend on building the business?
I think day one was, I was naive because I didn't quite realize how, well, first of all, I set the company up 2 weeks before COVID. Being a recruitment company, setting up a company 2 weeks before COVID was not fun because everyone was being made redundant, everyone was being furloughed, so nobody's interested in recruitment. So I guess there's only one term that can really express how I felt when I sat at my desk and, you know, lockdown happened and it was fuck. It literally was like, fuck. Because I had all this energy that I left Oliver, this business I've been part of for 15 years. I was part of the fabric of that company. I was on a good salary, well looked after. I liked everyone liked me. I didn't fall out with the company. I love that company. I traded all that in for me in this presentation. And then suddenly it was, no one wants it. No one, you could have the best recruitment product when nobody's interested. So the first 9 months were dark, like really, really hard. And I nearly gave up in June 2020. So I started the business. The company actually was formed in October 2019, but obviously I didn't launch it until February 2020. I launched it in February 2020. I went to the in-house recruitment expo, presented to a room of in-house talent people about the future of talent acquisition, and literally like the following week, lockdown happened. So it was awful. It was really horrible. And I remember sitting in the garden in June, beautiful summer's day, kids are running around the garden, you know, wife was home because we were all in lockdown. And I said, I just don't think it's my time. I don't think this is, I think I might have to phone Simon, ask for my old job back, had the piss taken out of me for like probably 6 months for coming back and you know, dust myself down and you know, see what Oliver looks like again. So, and I didn't. And she said to me, give it to the end of the year. I give it to the end of the year. And if you get to December, you've given it a year's crack. You've had massive macroeconomic conditions, you know, in your face, and no one would really fault you for, you know, giving it a go and going back to Oliver. The good news was we won our first client in November 2020.
Literally just before your kind of cut-off period.
Literally like November 2020. The pitch came out. We went hell for leather on this pitch. I threw the kitchen sink at it, and that was it was quite an interesting presentation because literally I had to convince this company that, you know, turns out is a global company, turns over $1 billion a year, that me and this presentation and 2 other people by this time that I invested in to bring in to help me pitch and present it and win it could do their work. And we convinced them, which was amazing, and that relationship has been positive ever since. So that kind of like hockey stick. I mean, it was more like a J curve, but it was a hockey stick that we came through that, and then we started pumping revenue, which was great. The benefit of then you can look at the benefit. The benefit of that was I had no overhead, right? So the company didn't cost anything to run the company because I wasn't taking salary or anything, so it didn't cost anything to run the company apart from the people that I hired to do this presentation and pitch with me and win the work. So we won that, and then profit that came out of that was just put straight back in to operationally being capable, delivering on my promise, because that was yes, what was the question, right? You could say like the company that we pitched to, frankly speaking, I would have done it and delivered it, but if you looked at the bare bones of the company, well, you might not have backed us. But as soon as the profit started coming out, I reinvested back into that particular client and swarmed it with great capability. So I hired a guy called Toby Thwaites, who runs a lot of our clients as managing partner today. He is an outstanding recruitment talent professional with an amazing network. I hired him. I hired Sophie Rigby, who's phenomenal at client services, client centricity and business development. And I hired her. And I just put all the money back in to just gear up this company. And it was like my third child, right? So my two kids eat first. My third child is chapter 2, that ate first. And then I worry about myself after. And that's when 2021 rolled around, and the pendulum swing was crazy. The economy went bananas. The cost of capital was still very low at that point. Loads of investors were investing in companies. The VC world was like billions being thrown around, and recruitment went boom. And we just land grabbed. The market went bananas, and we land grabbed because we had a product, I had a team, I had a first client. That's all we had. But then all this opportunity presented itself. So I just went hell for leather on sales. Before we could blink, I was 1 year later, after talking about closing the business, we had 65, 70 people in the company. So literally after a year, we went boom, it was great. Yeah. And then my mantra was, okay, now how do I stabilize this? How do I secure this? How do I make sure it's sustainable and doesn't just, be a flash in the pan? And we seem to have done it, so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Like looking back to the first year again, that must have been really tough. Like at points, like did imposter syndrome become a thing for you? Were you thinking like, oh, maybe I can't do this by myself? Like maybe I do need someone else to help me? Because for me and Harry, we're co-founders. We've got each other to kind of be our hype men to build our confidence. Whereas you in the early days were by yourself. You had to do it by yourself. How did you get through that?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, to your point on imposter syndrome, I think I've got imposter syndrome. I think I do. Because, I don't like standing and presenting because I look at the audience and any negative body language, they hate me. They think I'm talking crap. They're not interested. They're on their phone. She's yawning. He's looking out the window. It's like, that's all I think when I'm presenting, I think people aren't interested. So I do probably have an innate, confidence issue that I possibly mask. But I think, how did I get through that? Do you know what? I think the first thing that comes to mind is like my wife's awesome, and she helped me through that. That she was definitely there for me through those tough times, and I knew I had that security. And she's pretty awesome at business, so she was sort of counselling me and stuff. I had a number of calls with Simon Martin. One of them I literally broke down in tears. Don't mind admitting that. Literally on Zoom, like I had to go off the camera. I was like literally, I was in a mess. So yeah, it was dark. Yeah, it was dark. Everyone sees the sort of the jazz hands, but yeah, it was pretty crap.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is about for business owners, aspiring business owners, to find out like the detail behind how people have done it and the growth journeys. So that leads me back to one of your kind of principles, like positive paranoia.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? What does that look like?
It's not a comfortable place to live.
Yeah.
And it always comes back to that sort of relentless and restlessness ethos and sort of behavior. So in its most simplest terms, positive paranoia is about looking at scenarios and scenario planning all of the possible bad things that could happen. So you might look at, so someone might look at a client relationship and go, the client loves us, it's great. But my positive paranoia might say, what our client relationship relies on that one particular individual within that client. What if that individual leaves? Yeah. Okay, so new client comes in that we have no relationship with. So positive paranoia for me is not a negative force. It's actually a really positive force, because that's why I call it positive paranoia. It's positive. It's checking and balancing, making sure we don't get comfortable. So to give you the example, we might have any B2B will have a relationship with clients. The biggest risk that you have when you do B2B relationship is the key client moving on, because you've invested so much time in that relationship. They've gone, somebody else comes in, they might have a relationship with a supplier that's your competitor, they want to bring them in. So positive paranoia is all about scenario checking yourself. What can go wrong? What could go wrong here? Okay. From a business perspective, cash flow, right? What if these guys don't pay us on time? Okay. So we scenario all of our cash flow with a negative lens. So Aditya, who runs our finance, I look at our cash flow. Every time we look at our cash flow, I think I'm running out of money. Like literally, I'm like, oh my God, we're running out of money. You just know I've geared it based on most suppliers paying us in 3 weeks, not this week. And what happens? Most of them pay us this week, and it's fine. But if I worry about that, and so we say, okay, well, what if they don't? Okay, well, we've got, close brothers we can dip into our facility. We can get 200K. We plan for that scenario. So if those clients don't pay us, we've got a scenario which we can solve that problem. If you've got a key client that they might leave and move on somewhere else, what other relationships do we have in that business? So within any client, any B2B relationship, I'd highly advise one of the strategies that I've deployed in every client is a customer engagement strategy. You need to build a customer engagement strategy that goes beyond the one person that signs the contract, because while they are the key individual that signs your contracts and they are number one priority, they might leave. And where's your backup plan? So positive paranoia is all about just preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
Wow. You said before you answer that question, it's not necessarily the most comfortable place to be. Do you have an on-off button, a switch?
No. At night, I look at the ceiling and do ceiling security.
How do you turn?
No.
Can you switch yourself off?
Personally,
or is that high performance? Is that high performance? Do you reckon other people are like this?
I don't know. I think I've got my own version of it, and my teams might say that, Leo, you're always on, you never switch off, you never have a holiday. And I do have a holiday. I had a 2-week holiday, with the kids and family, and it was an amazing time. Did I switch my phone off? No. Was I available to everybody? Absolutely. Did I have to do, in this holiday, I had to do a pitch at 2:00 in the morning because of the time zone difference between us and the people we're pitching to. But I love it. And I don't think you should really need to switch off from something if you love it. I get my energy from it. So if you're actually feeling like I need a break, yes, you go through busy periods, right? But if you love what you do, why do you want to switch it off? I love the fact that I'm always available for my team. Anyone in the business wants to call me or WhatsApp me, they can call me. Whether it's something personal or something, work related. How do I get my releases? Like, yeah, I go to the gym. I used to, hit the pads, do boxing. I do a lot of running now. They're kind of like maybe like intermittent stress relievers, I would call them pressure release valves. Like going for a 10K run is a bit of a pressure release valve. Just, go and do that. Sleep is a real priority. I don't buy into this whole, I can work on 4 hours sleep bollocks. And I'm going to work till 3 a.m. I do not work, by the way. Like, this is what I will work. When I'm in work, I'm highly tuned in. Like, I'm in flow state from like 8:30. I mean, I'll be working. When you say working, like when the moment I open my eyes, I go downstairs, get my coffee. I've got my phone on, and I'm probably sending emails to teams and stuff. That's working, right? But that's not in flow state, proper working. So I'll work from like literally the moment I get up. But it's like comfortable work. It's like, send a few emails. If I remember something in the shower, I'll get out of the shower and I email someone. I've actually changed. I used to WhatsApp, and I realized that was getting quite intrusive to people. So I now email, so they can pick it up when they get into work. And then I start work, and then I'll be intensely in meetings and flow state until 5:30, 6, and then I'll stop. That's the time with the kids. So I leave my phone, laptop, everything in the office. Don't touch that until at least the kids gone to bed. And then I'll pick it up again and do what I did at 6 a.m., which is, just steady, few emails here, checking stuff. Yeah, you could call that intense, right? I don't really call that intense. I call it my life. I enjoy it. I'm trying to build something. I think you get back what you put in. As long as I'm enjoying it, why would I need a break from it?
Yeah, absolutely. That question was for me because I find myself walking the dog or with the family. I'll be thinking about work, and sometimes I find it really difficult to kind of switch off. So, with all of that as well, obviously, you're extremely busy. You're making a lot of decisions day to day. How do you stay focused? How do you manage your time?
I think one of the best lessons I ever learned is this statement, and it was again from the school of Simon Martin, which is, if it's on your desk, it's not getting done. Delegate. So build a team of people around you, which I'm very privileged to have, that do the work, and I encourage them to delegate as well. So I've just basically amplified everything that I need to get done by like maybe 6, maybe 8 times, because I'm getting other people to do it. And delegation is the key to amplifying your ability to get stuff done much faster, much more efficiently. Now, it doesn't mean that delegation, there's 2 types of delegation. People just give it to somebody else to do, which isn't delegation. Delegation is agreeing a task that needs to be done with someone. They do it, but you are consistently responsible for it. And that's the difference. So I think, am I busy? I make myself busy. I'm a self-starter. Because if you said to me, busy would be, I wouldn't have time to do this podcast. Yeah. I have time to do this podcast. If I spent 2 hours on Monday at my kids' sports day, right? Because I chose to do that. But it's because I've created an ecosystem of people around me that help me get stuff done quickly. So I think there's busy fools and there's productive ones. I don't like to think of myself as busy. I like to think of myself as productive. I think there's a big difference. I don't like busy. I like productive. What levers can I pull in this business that are going to make maximum impact? Is it going to be responding to that email that doesn't really mean anything, or is it having a conversation with Toby about a specific client that I'm a little bit positively paranoid about, and amping up what he does and asking him to drop onto the client and meet the client this afternoon to check out what's going on? That's going to have more impact. So I think I think busy is bad, productive is good. I like to be productive, not busy.
What's the best bit of business advice you've ever received?
Never lose a client through lack of innovation. That's the obvious one. There's loads of them though. I've got a whole book on them. George has seen them. I've got a whole book on it. Yeah. I'll give you photocopies of it.
Perfect. Yeah, please.
Photocopies. That show my age.
Yeah. Digital.
Photocopies.
Yeah. What is the best or most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
Starting chapter 2, I think. Yeah, investing in building this business. That's probably the most worthwhile investment I've ever done. Believing in myself to be able to do it. Having the courage and confidence to do it, and also recognizing that the most critical thing that you need, and maybe this is more for your audience, is the ability to sell. And I didn't, for 15 years, I didn't have the confidence to sell at Oliver. Simon wanted me to do sales, and I didn't have confidence. I thought no one wants to hear what I want to say. I'm going to get told no all the time. And it wasn't until my back was against the wall and I started chapter 2 and I had to go out and sell it, that I realized I wasn't so bad at it. So,
did you feel like you'd almost wasted time by not doing the sales before so you could learn and get better?
And earn loads of commission at Oliver.
Yeah.
No, do you know what? I don't, because my roles at Oliver were very much business related, and it was like, I see Oliver as the learning path in my career. So, I think there's certain parts. Again, this is in my little notebook that I keep. There's you go through certain stages in your career. So from like, and I'm don't quote me on the ages here because they're different for different people, but from the age, for me personally, from the age of like 17, 18 to the age of, mid 20s, I knew nothing. I was just a kid in business, just soaking up the world, trying to work out what I want to do in my life, cruising around. And that was, when I went from Xerox to Oliver. And then from mid 20s to sort of mid to late 30s, it's learn. So Oliver for me was the best education any money could buy because it taught me how to build and run a business. So learn is the second stage. And the final, the penultimate stage is apply. So I'm in apply stage now. So I've learned everything at Oliver. I'm now applying that to this business and we'll see where we go. And the final stage is give back. So I love giving back. I'll do that now. Some of them cross over, whether it's charity work, whether it's helping, young entrepreneurs, doing mentoring, give back. So know nothing, learn, apply, give.
On the flight over here to come see you, George mentioned our producer, he works with both of us. He mentioned that one year you took over 160 flights, economy class. And it's, it kind of shows to me that as an entrepreneur, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get things done. But also in a way, it's about that grit and that perseverance to keep going, to keep doing things. Like, what would you say about that? What's the most important thing there?
I think if you're anyone trying to set up a business or trying to build a business, if you don't have the relentless nature and grit and determination, you're not going to make it because it's really bloody hard. I told you earlier about times when I broke down crying because it wasn't like literally going the way I thought it was going to go, and it was really, really tough. And so I think using your example, yes, I did 100. It was actually 148 flights. It was premium economy, so it wasn't quite as bad as economy,
okay.
But it still wasn't comfortable because they were all red-eye flights. So I would fly from the UK to South Africa, premium economy, night flight, land in a Monday morning, so lose my weekend, land in Monday morning, and have to do 3-4 days worth of work and then fly back and then go to my next city. We had to do that because of the importance of personally getting to know the people that were going on the journey with us. So when we grew Oliver to, from literally, we grew from, I think it's something like in 2016, we had 4 countries. And in, or 14, 15, 16, we had like 3 or 4 countries. And then in 17, 18, 19, we were in like 30 countries. And that was largely me and a few of the other team members going around the world, setting up and building these teams and businesses for our clients. And I don't think that could have been done down the phone. So you have to be in the room with them, getting in the trenches. I would talk a lot about getting in the trenches with your teams. You've got to do that. You've got to lead by example. So I would fly to Singapore to be with, the lead that was out there, work with him side by side. It just being there with them is really, really key. So it took me grit and determination to do that. Yes. But if you're setting up anything, Chapter 2 has taken me grit and determination to build this company through the macroeconomic conditions we've had. This is not for the faint-hearted, right? It is not. I think you've got to focus on being productive, and it will be intensive. I think the intensity you've got to be able to cope with, and when it's not going right, what do you do? So yeah. Grit and determination are really, really 2 key ingredients you need if you're, setting up or building a business. And, for us, yes, it took grit and determination to fly around the world, but really that was all about being in the trenches with our teams, and going out there, being there in person.
148 flights in a year. Obviously, you're traveling, you're in one city, you're doing work, and then you're flying straight back out. You maybe didn't have the chance to be present and kind of experience what you were doing at the time when you were doing that. A bit like me today here in Jersey, we've got a 1-night stopover and then we're back home, so I'm not going to see any of the island. What do you make of that? Do you think you missed out on things?
Controversially, no, because my single-minded focus was to go there, do a job and get out. I think that if I was a younger single guy yes, I could fly to Singapore, do a week in Singapore, maybe go to Bali for a long weekend, then fly back via Singapore. I could have done that. And if there are younger people that don't have personal families or commitments back home, then yeah, I enjoy the journey, right? Like enjoy it. I wasn't in that position. You know, my son was, one just born, so I wanted to get back. Do I regret any of it? Not really, because I was there to do a job. Like my single-minded focus was to get in, sort these teams out, grow these teams, or fix a problem, or meet these clients, and hightail it back home again. I went in there like, special ops. You go in there, you deliver, you hover out, you go home again, and that was effectively my job. Do I regret any of it? I'm hoping to see them via a personal holiday and do it in a luxury way rather than do it premium economy there and back. So yeah, see the world that way.
Obviously, from this conversation, you exude like that ambition and that driven personality. It reminds me a lot of my co-founder Harry, and often I see that he kind of struggles. He doesn't get frustrated. I don't know how to put it necessarily, but people that aren't necessarily the same way as him or driven in the same way that he is. Yeah. Do you ever struggle when you meet people that aren't necessarily driven by the same things that you're driven by?
I used to. And that was a big learning for me. Like my management style was very much like I was young, I was immature, and I was probably doing jobs that I wasn't quite qualified for. I was being pushed out of my comfort zone all the time. And so my management style was kind of like, if you're similar to me in your work ethic and you're results driven and we've both got the same goal and we're both, sort of smashing this, yeah, things work really, really well. But then I might work with, I don't know, a dad or a mum who was equally as good, but you know what? They wanted to switch off at 6 like I do now and spend time with the kids. And as a younger man, I didn't probably empathize enough with people who had that because I didn't personally get it. I get it now. And nothing's more important than that, unless you're like nothing's more important than that, So the biggest lesson I learned was, and this is maybe for your guy Harry, but is empathy and understanding what's driving the people you're dealing with is probably the most important ingredients you can have to optimizing a team, because you understand what why are they in the room? What is their personal motivators? Why are they here with you? Right. And, if you want everybody to be grinding as hard as you and being in the room with you, then make sure they have equity and have the real reason to drive as hard as you. But if they're getting a salary and they've got a family and that's their real why in life, then don't expect that of them because you won't get it. It's a different character, a different person to have around you.
And talking about ambition and drive, do you set yourself targets and then get frustrated, annoyed if you're not hitting those milestones, be it financial or personal?
Do you want to see them? Every year I set myself targets. It's the New Year's resolution thing. I've never shared this. So here you go. So I've got in my notes, I've got 2022 commitments, 2023 commitments, and now I've got 2024 commitments. So my 2024 commitments, I've got chapter 2, personal, partner, and father. So 2024 commitments, chapter 2, get chapter 2 to 15 million revenue. We're on that run rate. Win 6 new clients by half year 1. Have 100 employees. Personal, get my weight down to 88 kilos.
Okay.
I'm not doing that one very now. Read 1 book a quarter. I'm listening to a book a quarter. Run a marathon. Well, that's booked in. Hit the gym 3 times a week. Not quite doing that. Run 3 times a week. Not quite doing that. With my partner, date night twice a month. We're doing all right.
Okay.
I would like to do better there. And with my partner, do something once a month to surprise her, and then be a good father, teach and love. They're my commitments. So that's what I wrote. I wrote that, and then the year before that, I had get chapter 2 to 10 million revenue, did 12, win 6 new clients, did that. Last year's one was actually get to 100 employees. We didn't do it, so I carried that one through. I was a bit ambitious on 2023, get to 85 kilos. Definitely didn't do that. And then, father, teaching, love, make effort for my wife, that sort of stuff. So yes, I do. Yeah, set result. Yeah, targets for myself.
A, does it work? And B, do you get frustrated if you don't hit those targets?
It works. I think it works. Yeah, because I think you need them as sort of, North Stars. Do I get frustrated? Not if I feel I've put in the effort that I'm comfortable with to achieve those goals and fallen short. So, for example, if we don't achieve 15 million in revenue this year, then how am I going to feel about that? Well, will I be frustrated if, we've worked really hard, we've won new clients, but, we've had some client attrition, things haven't all quite gone to plan from a macroeconomic conditions perspective, it's still tough out there. I wouldn't be frustrated. If I felt that I've eased back a bit and I didn't go to some of the client meetings I felt I should have gone to, didn't get out selling as much as I should have done, I would have been frustrated with myself. So that's just, it's like a prong in my back to keep myself.
If you could give a founder or co-founder a playbook to starting their own business, kind of where would you start?
I think the first place to start is find a problem in which you are passionate enough about to solve. Right? Mine was talent acquisition. Talent acquisition and recruitment was a problem in my last role that I felt passionate enough I wanted to solve that. Design and build something with market orientation in mind that solves that issue. And then there are two further things that I think you need. You need the ability to sell. If you really do not undervalue the importance of salesmanship. I think salesmanship has got a bad taint to it because of the traditional version of what people think a salesman or woman is. In a typical way, like recruitment's got a little bit of a bad taint to it. But every successful CEO can sell, generally. They can sell. Just be able to sell it. And then the final one, no, there's two more. The next one is commercial acumen, like be on your numbers. Cash flow, P&L, cash flow, P&L, cash flow, P&L. Okay, that's so important because you can have the most successful business, but you can run out of cash. I've seen some really successful agencies grow exponentially. They get one bad paying client and they fold, So commercial acumen is really key. And finally, client centricity. Like you can have the best product in the world, but if you haven't got that client centricity, that client empathy, that ambition just to please clients and add value to them, you're not going to grow as quickly as you could do. So find a problem you're passionate about, solve it using market orientation, have strong commercial acumen, have the ability to sell it, and then look after it, being client services.
Perfect. Two small follow-ups on that.
Yeah.
Why is passion important?
Because you're not going to enjoy it, like you got to be passionate about something. I mean, am I passionate about recruitment? Not really. Am I passionate about solving problems that relate to talent acquisition? Absolutely. Because I felt that pain. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to have a job wreck out for too long. I know what it feels like to have a crap interview because the person served up to me by the in-house team or the recruitment person has just sent me a CV and not screened them properly. I personally felt those problems. I remember getting ridiculously angry because our teams and some of our recruitment partners at the time were just sending me LinkedIn profiles or sending me CVs over. So I don't want my clients to feel like that. I want our clients to have the white glove treatment. So that's why, as you can tell, I'm passionate about that.
And selling for me and Harry, it's not the selling that's a problem. It's getting the leads. It's generating the leads. Any tips on generating leads?
Yeah, well, I think that is also selling. So there's lots of ways to do lead generation. My personal preference is to do one or two things. One, your network is your net worth. Yeah. Lean into your network. I've been able to build this business largely because I've used my network and extended network. So, we've got an advisory board. My biggest Achilles heel coming into this world is the fact that I didn't know many people in talent acquisition. I was a marketing person. I was an ad man or person, doing advertising stuff, and my client was marketing people. Now my clients are CHROs and talent people. So I didn't have a black book. So generating leads was like, I had no black book, no relationships. So I lent into my network that had those and worked with them to get introductions. So personal introductions are the best place to get leads. Personal introductions. And I would probably scour LinkedIn with all your personal network of anyone you've helped, anyone you've worked with, anyone who likes you, who might have somebody who might want your product. Lean into your network. And the second one I would say is I think content is key. I think content and awareness drives lead generation. I think Chapter 2 are one of the better, if not best, at content creation for our industry. And we've gone from nothing to where we are today to be a sort of a challenger brand in the sort of talent ecosystem. Companies that have been there for a lot longer than us, and we're winning. And that gets us in front of them. So content creates the awareness, and your network gets you in front of people.
Perfect, thank you. And then looking at your principles, what is the importance of knowing what you don't know?
That actually was the answer to a question that you asked me earlier, which is one of the best lessons you learned in business was knowing what you don't know. And when you are able to, one, recognize how little you know and what you don't know and what you need to know, will be the art of you starting to build a really successful SLT around you and a really successful business. So, personally, my skills are commercial acumen, client relationships, business development. That's it. Numbers, people, basically. Our people, clients, and selling. That's my skill set. Talent acquisition, recruitment. I know a lot about it. I was on the customer end of it. I ran talent operations globally for businesses, but crafting a strategic workforce plan and doing stuff, I'd never actually done that before. So I had to bring somebody around me that knew that stuff. So I hired Toby. I wanted to extend my client centricity and ability to sell. So I hired Brad and Sophie. Sophie was my first hire. And she mirrors a lot of the ethoses that I have around client centricity, client services, and she's better than me when it comes to sales. Frankly speaking, I'll put it on record. Like she will, when I'll say we're not going for something, she'll go, no, we're going for this. She's brilliant. She is the reason why we're in India today. Because she would not let that drop. She wanted to do a deal, and I really admire that. She's better than me at that. So there's also know what you don't know, and also hiring people that are better than you. That's the other thing.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And you've mentioned a lot in this podcast, both at Oliver and at Chapter 2. You've got a top table, you've got a team of leaders, a team of people that know what they're doing. Diversity in those people, are they all the same sort of people? Are they all as driven and ambitious as you, or do they have their own kind of traits and kind of personalities?
I'd like to think we've got a diverse SLT from culturally and gender. Definitely gender. We might need to improve our ethnicity diversity a bit more, but that breeds different schools of thought and different contributions from experiences and life that I don't see myself as a privileged white guy, right? So I think it's really, really important. Yeah, it's massively important because you just have to you need to be open to these opinions, observations, and open to challenge. One of the biggest things as a leader, you've got to be open to challenge.
Yeah, and also like the different mindsets and the different personalities. Like, do you need people that are all similar to yourself to work with them, or do you like people that?
I love diversity. I love working with people who don't think like me, because I think like me. I live with me all day long, every day.
Yeah, fair.
So I like people that don't think like me, and you have to be consciously open to their observations, even if they're not what you might think is right. You've got to be open to it because you might be wrong. So that's really important.
Perfect. And how do you stop yourself from getting in the way of your company's growth in terms of if there's two separate choices, two decisions to make, how do you make that decision that's going to be the best one for the company? If your top table is saying like, well, you want to go this route and you firmly believe in another route,
yeah,
which one wins out?
I think, as the person running this business, and this leads into something else I want to talk about, which is customer centricity. But if I think something's right, the reason why we have an SLT and an SLT team meeting every single week is for me to check in with the team and to make sure the direction of travel, everybody's aligned. So if there is a challenge to this, and there was a challenge to us opening in India, Toby didn't want to do it. He's now loving it. Okay. Sophie really wanted to do it. I was not sure because it was an extension of our, geographic locations, and we, was it the right call? And we went with that, and it was absolutely the right call. I like to think that I listen and I'm open to listening and being challenged and being wrong. It's good to be wrong. Mistakes, again, making mistakes. I make mistakes, and it might be the wrong decision. And having a good team who feel confident and comfortable to challenge you, I think is really, really important. So yeah, and also if you're wrong, admit it and move on. Don't put the egos at the door. Egos are killers for businesses. If you've got an ego, just put it at the door. And the final thing I was going to for your sort of audience, I guess, is another lesson that I learned in business is the customer is never wrong until you can convince them that they are. Yeah, the customer is always right until you can convince them they're wrong. So if a customer believes that there's water in that glass, I'm going to say there's water in that glass. But then I'll say, would you like to take a drink out of it? And they go, oh, there's nothing in it. Okay, great. Okay, there's nothing in it. You've got to the customer's always got to be the one that's right.
Amazing concept. How do you do it how do you do that? How do you kind of lead them onto the path of showing them they're wrong?
I think, they're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So they're right. They're right. So you might be quite agreeable and be highly customer centric in your approach to them, saying, okay, you might have to trial a path that they want to do and convince them it's wrong along the way. I think to answer that question, I think the best way of doing this is evidence-based decision making. So if a customer is doing something you specifically thinks it's wrong, but you don't want to tell them they're wrong, you've got to put enough evidence in front of them that convinces them that, okay, yeah, you're right, but doesn't put them into a position where they have to go, oh yeah, I'm wrong, I'm the customer, because again, no one likes to be wrong, So I'll give you a classic example for recruitment and chapter 2 in a talent acquisition space. We might take a role to market that is way below the salary banding, and they'll say, oh, I want the best in the business. We're sitting there going, we're never going to get them. We're never going to get the best in the business on that salary and that package. So how are we going to convince the client that they're not going to do this? Well, first of all, we'll agree to take the strategy, but then we'll put data and information in front of them that shows them where that solution is they want. So they want that talent. So then we'll say, well, this is what that talent looks like. This is where they live. This is what they do. This is what they pay. This is what their package is. Now, by the way, this is not what they're telling us they're paid. They work for this company, this company, this company, and those salary bandings are that. And then they'll go, do you think we need to increase our salary banding? I'm like, yeah, you probably should. That's a great idea. Thanks very much. They were wrong, but I've just convinced them along the right path.
Cool.
Brilliant.
All right. Thanks for your exclusive.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.